they were sitting on a couch, having a drink and just chatting and talking. And I was like, oh my God, that's right. We were both raised by wolves. They're both wolves. I was just saying to Matt, my publicist, I said, this is kind of cool, like to be at a junket and to have a movie that's coming out and I don't know. I think after COVID, I'm just grateful for everything. So it's really nice, like I was like, this is cool. We're in Chicago. Last night we had the premiere and we did a little premiere like for a hometown premiere. And I was like, you just saw like everyone's so excited. And I forget how famous Sebastian is for his, like he's beloved. And because I just think of him as like an actor. I don't think, like I forget like the whole comedian selling out Madison Square Garden aspect of that, which is, that's like rock star-y sort of thing. And yeah, and last night everybody was so excited and that's their Chicago boy. And it was really cool to be there and to be there with his wife, who I portray a version of in the movie, and her parents who are David and Kim, and his dad was there. We got to meet Salvo for the first time, which was really cool because we shot during 2021 COVID, which was very much stricter. It was like a moving thing, as the protocols for filming, but it was very strict in 2021. So people couldn't visit set and we couldn't leave. So Salvo we never saw him on set. And so it was really fun to meet him. He's very sweet. I went up to him. We were doing some interview and I said, how are you feeling? I said, is it? And he goes, honestly, Leslie, I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. It was very sweet. And he was like, I'm sitting in a theater and my son is there and I'm watching a movie. And I said, it's a real love letter to you. And he goes, yeah, it's a love letter. I don't know. There's something. I had a lot of people, a lot of dudes too, who came in yesterday during the junket and they were like, I was crying in this movie. My mother just passed away, or my father just passed away, grandfather or something, or I got out and I called my dad afterwards. And I think regardless, male, female, you are reminded of our love of somebody who is a father, mother, or mother figure or father figure, and the importance of family, especially coming out of COVID. I don't know about you, but all I crave is to be with my people that I call my family, my chosen family. Is very important right now. And so I think that's the cool thing about the movie. It's just a reminder that it's nice to be vulnerable and to rely on them and embrace them.
I agree.
We spend enough time alone.
Yes. Haven't we though?
I know.
And I do agree. I think watching it as both a son and a father,
oh, wow.
There's a lot to glean from that. And the
How old's
relationship.
your kid?
So I have 3 children. I have a teenager who's going to be 16, and then I have an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And how was it for you when you watched it as?
It's interesting because watching it as a parent, for me now, I'm thinking future context.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, wow, now is a really important time. Like, you know what I mean? Just not necessarily like the first time I ever thought about it, but you're kind of like framing your context for the future. Like, oh, wow, I really need to be taking my time very seriously right now when I'm with my children.
Yeah. I mean, Sebastian made a joke about it, like about there's a bit about cologne, and Sebastian does love his cologne. But I said, when was the first time you remember doing, cologne like your father did? And he goes, my first communion, which you're very young. And I think like, how old are you in first communion? Like 8? Is like something like,
yeah,
you're young. And then he said his dad had these red shoes that he loved. He thought they were so cool. And he would borrow them. His dad would let him borrow. I think like,
yeah.
I used to go into my mom's closet. My father passed away when I was little, so my mom raised me and my 3 sisters, and her clothes and her shoes, I mean, very small. Like, I mean, they're the people, if you're lucky enough to have a good, good parent, that you look up to them. You just want to be with, they're your heroes. And so it's cool that just a gentle reminder of like, our kids need us, Yeah,
no, you're absolutely right. And watching as a son, like it takes me back to times in my teenage years when I've got pictures where I'm wearing my dad's clothes. I went out for like some big fancy thing like you're talking about. And I would put on he had this cool black suit with blue stripes, right? I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and this movie really does a phenomenal job of capturing what it's like to be a son and to be a father and to kind of be interacting in these family situations where you're kind of like learning as you go.
Yeah. And the integration of 2 families and this fear of also like I'm going to lose my son or I'm going to lose my daughter to that family or in this like thing, and trying to like circumnavigate the merging of worlds together is very hard. We have in the movie, my family is insane and but loving. But then there's this great scene between Kim Cattrall and Bob De Niro, and they seem like such opposites. And then they have the scene and something happens afterwards, and they have a weird chemistry that's sort of like what's happening, but also they see each other like, oh, we're not so dissimilar. Like there is a common thread between them. And I remember my partner, Sam, when my mother and his mother met, we took her to Virginia, drove down to Virginia for Thanksgiving, and I was very nervous. I was like, my mom is very specific and, she's Southern and like, I don't know if like your mom, I don't know. And I remember at one point I looked over and they were sitting on a couch, having a drink and just chatting and talking. And I was like, oh my God, that's right. We were both raised by wolves. They're both wolves. They're both insane. Like it was just like, and like Penny loved my mom, Betty, and Betty loved Penny. And I was like, why was I ever nervous about that? Like that's my, like, and it was really heartwarming to see that. And like, usually there is some sort of common thread that we can find with our in-laws and stuff.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And I really appreciate your insight into the film today, Leslie. And thank you for not walking out on me.
I won't walk out. I won't quit. You can't. I won't quit you.